So I thought it would be appropriate, since many people are getting into not only profiling, but forensic doc examination. A lot of us are also forensic document. We testify in court. It's sort of a science that's now being more accepted as a science. And if you look at all the applications for law enforcement and police, wow. And what do you know? There are people in our organization that have been certified through Handwriting University that are have been police officers, have been investigators. We've had people that have been in the FBI, all these really amazing, smart people. I thought we should put some of these people on stage, and so you can learn from them. One of those people I recently met, her name is Faith Wood, and she'll be your speaker tonight. She is not only a past law enforcement officer, a Canadian, right? Yeah, and did you have to wear the big hat and the horse? Sweet. Starts with the horse. Wow, so she can ride a horse and shoot you. That's awesome. She did actually arrest people every Friday night. We were discussing beforehand. So she does, I don't know if she still has the Billy Club, but watch out, guys. She's really tough. She's learned handwriting. She's amazing. One of the reasons I've added it to teach is a lot of people take their test here at the conference, and some get tested on the telephone. And I was sitting at like the pool. It was a summer day.
Cool.
And
it was winter.
It was snowing up in Canada. I'm like, you live where? In Canada? And I gave her a test, and she was amazing. And some people I don't think are amazing, and some people are like, wow, this person's like competent. They passed, but they really impressed me. They taught me something. This is really insightful. She also is a trained hypnotherapist. She's kind of someone that heals, someone that is a counselor. And then you have all this wonderful law enforcement background and what they call first responders. I'll let her explain a little bit before. But if there is an emergency, we're in the right place. Exactly. We are totally in the right place. So without further ado, I will introduce you to Faith Wood and let her talk about how you can use some of the techniques that she's learned for law enforcement interviewing techniques and interrogation, which I suppose would be okay for relationships, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So interrogation in whatever form that you want. So please put your hands together and welcome Faith Wood.
Thanks, Mark, for that introduction. I met a few of you in the hallway, so thanks very much for being so nice. Yes, we tested this earlier. We're not counting on it. So yes, I was a law enforcement officer in Canada, and I flew out this morning from Canada where it was 11 degrees Celsius and pouring rain. So I spent a lot of time traveling between Mexico, actually, the US, and Canada, and I teach critical incident stress, post-traumatic stress. How do we communicate when people are under pressure? That never happens, right? You guys have never tried to talk to a spouse when you were really ticked off? Ever said that little phrase that you thought was so innocent and had somebody explode and thought, whoa, what do I do with that? Well, I'm going to teach you a little bit about what you do with that. But this course is a little different. We're going to talk about interviewing and interrogations. I want to teach you a little bit about what I learned and one of the big reasons I got into handwriting analysis. So when I first started my law enforcement career, I left intensive care nursing. And I wanted, change of pace. So I said I didn't like working night shifts anymore by myself. And so I thought policing seemed like a logical move. There's a lot of night shifts by myself. The great part was I was sitting instead of standing, so that wasn't too bad. And I want to talk to you about first responders. Everybody know what a first responder is? Fire, police, EMS. When I was in law enforcement, when I started my career, I got taught something called statement analysis. Anybody ever heard of that? Basically what we do is we bring the bad guy in, we get him to write down what happened. So put it in your own words on a sheet of paper. Then we take that sheet of paper and we go in a back room. And we look at that sheet of paper, not for what he wrote down, but for all the gaps and for all the places he potentially lied. Then we walk back into the room, and very aggressively, we ask questions about the gaps. I had to teach one recruit once that there's no good way to say, so what's your problem? Not good rapport building tools. Handwriting analysis, on the other hand, is a great rapport building tool. Why?
You get a little insight on them prior to talking to them.
Oh, you bet. So maybe the frontline officers brought the guy in, and they weren't that nice out in the field. And they bring him in, they haul his butt in, and they stick him in a room in a hard chair, kind of like what you're sitting on right now, which isn't so bad right now, but give it an hour. And they leave him isolated, and they say, yeah, we're going to get that phone call for you. And then they put a big bright light on you, and his hat, in that room. They never air condition them. And there's concrete walls and concrete floor, and they leave you there. How much does this guy want to confess? All he cares about is getting out of the room. So how much information is he about to give you? Not much. Now you come in and you say, listen, do me a favor. I know you probably weren't treated very well out there. Why don't you just sit down and just quickly, so we get you out as fast as we possibly can. What if you just sat down here and wrote down on this sheet of paper right here, just tell me what happened today. Tell me why you're here. Think they'd do it? When you finish that, then we'll almost be wrapped up. We got to remember to look at what's motivating people. So now we just wrap things up quicker. But the evidence that we gather now allows us to ask questions that are relevant and not leading. So we want to start to look at things about a statement. One of the greatest things, one of the greatest tools, an arsenal for law enforcement, is what we call a voluntary statement. And a voluntary statement is this place where we hand you a sheet of paper and we say, here, please tell me what happened in your own words. Now, one of the tendencies for law enforcement is they are A-type people. And what happens when you're a control freak? We have a tendency to write it for them. Has anybody ever done that? You know, somebody's telling you something, you're writing the notes, writing it for them. In law enforcement, very, very common. So that is what we call inadmissible in court. If you write it, the officer, then you can't take that statement to court. If they write it, it's evidence, which means they voluntarily agreed to write you this statement. Now, we need that voluntary word. That's judicial. Now you take that statement and you walk out of the room. And now what can that statement do for you? We need to pay attention to this voluntary thing. But statement analysis, if I had learned what Bart was teaching me in the course that I took, and had I been able to use that, we'd have saved ourselves a whole lot of time. Because now I want to look for, how do I get rapport with this person? If I can get somebody to open up to me, to like me enough, are they more likely or less likely to be honest? It's very difficult for anyone to commit a crime or do any kind of bad activity against somebody they like, which is what you want to do with an interview and interrogation. I want to make sure in my interview, this guy likes me or this woman likes me. And if she likes me, now I can get the information I need. Critical and important when it comes to doing interview and interrogation. And a lot of time gets spent figuring out how to talk to this person. A lot of time gets wasted trying to figure out what to say. Now I do handwriting analysis and I can get some tips that lead me to talk to them in a certain way. I can find out, are they outgoing? Are they emotionally heart-driven? Or are they more analytical, more logical, more linear in their thinking? So if I'm now interviewing somebody and I say, geez, how did it feel? And I'm talking to a logical, linear person, what are they going to say? Anyway, I already don't like you. Stop talking about feelings. And if I'm not talking about feelings to somebody who really needs that, I'm defeating the purpose as well. Because if I realize somebody's very heart-driven, I've got to tie everything back to that heart-driven place. Otherwise, I don't have people who like me. And liking me is extremely important. Because if they like me, they volunteer information. And sometimes they do what we call blurting, which is also extremely valuable information. If it's, what's the magic word? Voluntary.